anything. They had a guy doing vertical pursuits, basically just following a dot, going up and down, right? Should be smooth, both eyes together. This is what his eyes are doing. Right? And we wouldn't know it, but we had the camera going. And so we could watch, we played it back. We could watch the lines doing this with his eyes. Now, did he notice any of that? No, why? Because his brain's adapted to that. Right? It's made itself so it's stable. I mean, he should be doing this all day long just to keep his eyes centered on, but no, his brain is adapted to that misstep that's in there. However, because of this going on, how much more stress is his brain during the day? You know, this guy's biggest issue was eye fatigue. Well, he sits in front of a computer, you know, and he's got two computers that are up like this. Actually, it's 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So he's going back and forth, up and down like this. Well, you're not going to last long if your eyes can't stay focused and are moving around on you when they shouldn't be. Of which he, once again, didn't know until he looked.
So people that have, like, impaired eye, like one eye that they don't see well out of, or
that's the only way we can't. I haven't asked that question. I'm guessing it probably doesn't work if somebody has one eye.
But I mean, that has to be very hard on.
Hard on, yes, you're exactly, yes.
Long term.
Well, and you lose your ability to see depth. Your depth perception goes because you need 2 eyes to see, be able to have the 2 different variances of where that object is, be able to see how well. Now, once again, they can adapt to it because I had an aunt and an uncle who both lost an eye, and they both functioned just fine. My uncle was a cement pourer, and you kind of need to know where things are at when you're pouring cement. And my aunt was a working on a farm. Well, you better know where the cow's at when they're running at you and where the fence is at. I mean, so they can function, but yes, it's that much more stressful on their brain because of the fact they're only getting, you know, one view of what's coming in from the world.
So the school did sign up to do this?
What's that?
If a school did have you come in and baseline test everybody,
Mm-hmm.
is this QEEG something you can bring to the school and do, or is that too big of a...
The QEG is, but the right eyes isn't.
Okay.
Yep, and the right eyes, they can do that, yeah. I mean, it's right here in this case. It's easily portable, and that's baseline. If we see, so what I ended up seeing, just as another kind of aside, I did the right eyes on an individual, and we trained him, and it didn't change. We trained him again, it didn't change. And we needed to scan him, and when we scanned him, his brain was all over the charts as far as where things were out of balance. So for him, we said, we can't work with your eyes. We got to work with your brain for sure, because no matter how hard we train your eyes, it's never going to get better, because the part of your brain that is supposed to be controlling your eyes is too out of balance. We got to fix this first. Once this gets fixed, this will be a lot easier. So that's the nice advent of having the 2 directions to look at and be able to treat or train both of them if need be.
So what about brain injuries that aren't necessarily mechanical? Meaning, my understanding is that, like, for somebody who has like severe childhood abuse or neglect, they can actually have
Alters their brain chemistry.
Right.
Yep.
So do
That's
these
tough.
kind of therapies help with that at all?
I would imagine it'll probably have some benefit, but those are really tough cases because, I mean, they're being altered at the genetic level from the time that their brain is growing and maturing. And if you alter the genetic patterns at that early of a stage, I've actually heard reports and studies of their brains are literally different from yours and mine, just because of the genetic alterations from that stress of what happened to them when they're children.
Mm-hmm.
So would I say, can they not benefit? No, I think they definitely could, but I don't know to what degree.
Mm-hmm.
That's because you're once again, you're working with a different potentially layout. But once again, you look at the physiology, you're looking at brainwave patterns and equalizing how well your brain can go up and down the scale with the frequencies and how well their eyes move. So you certainly could evaluate and make it work, at least to our norms, what would be the best form, and then try and figure out some other things for them at that point too.
How much does age figure into this? You know, as you age, you know, lots of reactions get slower or whatever, and so is that going to show up? You know, if you
With the eye check or with
the eye check. If you you know, are scanning and checking an older individual.
The only place you might see a change where that would be a challenge would probably be on what's called the choice reaction tests. So you'll have your finger on a keyboard and there's objects that pop up on the screen and you have to push the right button in response to whatever comes up on the screen. And so your reflex times from you seeing the vision, whatever it is, through your brain, through your spinal cord, out your finger, may have slowed down. But when we just look at the mechanics of your eyes, there should be no breakdown of age difference as far as you should be able to be 5-year-old and do this, and you should be able to be 55 and do this. Right? If there's a breakdown somewhere, it's because there's a neurological component to it, or there's some trauma that happened to your eye. And keep in mind that optometrists are awesome for the jobs that they do, but an optometrist's job is to look at the health of your eye. The health of your eye. So macular degeneration, cataracts, tumors, stuff that's in the eye, that's the stuff that they're looking at. They're not trained to look at the mechanics of how the eye moves. And even when doctors come in too, they do following my finger, they're not, that's probably like the worst test that I've ever seen done. And it's just following my finger. Well, yeah, you gotta do, there's more movements in there, and we now know it's the fast movements that are the big indicator, not the, can you just follow my finger? And most people can come in there and, yeah, you can follow it. But when are they doing that? On a football field or a basketball court, or there's all this other stuff going on, and they're doing these quick little screens. Okay, great, but if they're still functional, we know level 1 concussions are where you just feel like you got your bell rung and you're kind of a little bit out of it, but then, okay, I'm okay, coach, I can go back in. What happens if she hits her head or he hits his head again within that short amount of time? Well, now you got level 1 potentially walking its way up to level 3. Other questions? These are good.
I don't want to open a whole can of worms,
Just
but
follow.
just a little half one.
Just full.
Do you think there's any link between concussions and ADHD diagnosis?
I definitely have. If somebody is possibly, it is possible that a child from age 2, when they're crawling around, to age 5 or 6 when they get into school, there is a potential that they can have a head injury that goes undiagnosed, unevaluated, something happens, that couldn't start that. And then you won't notice the problem until you actually get to school. Because the hardest thing your brain will ever do is be in a school environment. And so the highest level of stress your brain will get will be in a school in that school environment, which then you'll start to see some breakdowns. You can also have it where an older individual can have a head injury, and they can get ADD, ADHD because of the head injury. For them, it might not be as noticeable because they're not going to school, but you might notice that when you're talking to them, all of a sudden you see them kind of drift off over here somewhere. Or if they're in a crowded room and you're talking to them, and they're looking at you, but you're like, they're not really listening to me. Those can all be signs or symptoms that something happened, that their ability to focus has gone someplace else because of the head trauma that took place. Headaches, brain fog, the brain farce they talk about, it's just old age. No, it's not old age, especially if you're 40. And this is what we just got done reading on whatever report it was. 40-year-olds are starting to see mental breakdowns as far as their ability to do simple tasks. And that's not a good thing for anybody. Because if a 40-year-old has 3 or 4 kids and they can't keep track of themselves,
How about dysautonomia? You said something about a growing back that was related to concussion.
Mhm.
Or if it's not related to concussion, it's related to the puberty change.
I still start wondering a little
We
bit.
can't hear. We can't.
She was just wondering, when I talked about the dysautonomia, the gal that got the concussion, and then she developed dysautonomia from
Which is
that.
what? Which is what?
It basically,
Autonomic disorder where, like, my daughter has it. We were just down at Mayo. So it's like she will black out. It's kind of like all the blood goes from feet to her brain, and her pulse will jump 30 points just from going lying down the same. And it causes chest pain.
if you want to,
Basically just all the things that you.
yeah, if you want to, I can get you in touch with.
Automatically.
I'll ask this mother if you guys want, because she sounds like her daughter got the exact same thing going on. if you want, you know, support or help, or if she finds somebody that has something, or, yeah, still, part of me in the back of my head keeps picturing the fact that something happened where she hit her head, or she hit a car accident, or something happened where that scenario of enough torque onto her brainstem and cell tertiary area where those control mechanisms are at. Because the other component of where the pituitary connects is where the hypothalamus is. And the hypothalamus is huge for autonomic function. So where you can have that. And then it manifests when puberty comes on. Because now those areas that are supposed to be controlling those hormonal components, they were potentially injured or traumatized, or they got something going on there where they're not able to work at the level they're supposed to be working at, or they're working too much, or whatever the case might be. But yeah, if you guys want, I'll definitely get you in touch with her. I'll ask her first. She's put together a whole traumatic brain injury support group type of thing. So we're going to be having a symposium this coming March. I'll be talking at, a couple of people will be talking at about things like this.
You had that 200% stat, what was that for again? The number
The 200
that went up?
And the number of pediatric concussions in the last decade has gone up 200%.
Do you have any theories behind that?
Just more kids are playing at younger ages, probably. I would imagine is part of it. I just think the sheer numbers of participants in that sport now are huge. I know one of my patients is a coach for a Pee-wee group, which is 5th and 6th graders, and I mentioned before there's 3rd and 4th graders that are playing. So kids that are playing that would have waited until they were in 9th grade are now playing when they're in 3rd grade. So yeah, you have lots of time for things to potentially happen and more opportunities for it. And then you're looking again at, you know, one of the big things that helps with stopping concussions is neck strength. So you got this older 3rd graders, 8, 9, somewhere in that ballpark. So you got this 9-year-old with this huge helmet on his head and not a lot of strength in his neck, and then you're running into each other. I don't see a good scenario there long term for a lot of these kids. Although at the same rate, I tell them, if you want the kids to play them in 5th and 6th grade, get it out of their system so that they say they played, and then they can say, all right, this isn't for me. Because I guarantee you, if you've ever been tackled, where you just get to hold your arms at your side because they wrapped you up, they take your legs off from under you and have you land on your head, it's an experience you don't like. I've had several. So yeah, anyways. Any other questions?
So are emotional, like things like extreme grief, is that actually a cause? Like, could it actually be the cause of a concussion, or is it more that there's something lying dormant that intense stress manifests or brings on? Like,
Yes.
I've just seen, I don't know how to ask the question, but I've just seen some people who've experienced, you know, a large amount of grief, you know, immediately it was at a time where they were really stressed to begin with, and just saw them, you know, fall apart.
Yeah, well, you get
in a way other than, you know, obviously it's a hard time for anybody, but to a point where it changed things dramatically.
Well, you could have what are the top 10 stressors in people's lives? Getting married, having kids, moving, having a death in the family. Those 3 or 4 right in of themselves, if they happen in a very short amount of time, is a huge amount of mental stress in your system. And if you had something pre-existing to that, a previous concussion that was never healed properly, or still having some neurological imbalances that are there, you bet you can push the system even more so. Depression and anxiety and grief are mainly emotions of the right side of your brain. And so if you already had an imbalance from left to right as far as function goes, and then you hit it with those 3 things, you can definitely have enough of an imbalance from side to side and start causing challenges. That's one of the things we look for with the neurofeedback, is we want to see one side of your brain is responsible for making primarily alpha wave, the other side is making beta wave. But they can get flip-flopped. When we see the flip-flop, that's when we see people with anxiety and depression, because these things aren't working like they're supposed to be. So your brain is gaining access to more one side of your brain when it's exposed to something new. So when something new comes into your environment, both sides of your brain are supposed to analyze it. So, okay, is this something good? Is this something bad? Should I approach it? Should I go away from it? But if we start losing access to this side of your brain, all we got is, I don't like it, I'm sad, I'm anxious, I need to get away from it. So familiar with anybody or somebody that you know? All right, so now this part of your brain becomes so active that now anytime something new happens, your brain doesn't get a chance to look at both sides. It's always looking with one side. And so now every event in your life gets labeled as sad, anxious, too much work, can't do it, negative, negative, negative. We just use the word negative, right? It's just a way to describe what it is, but it's how are you interacting with that event? But if your brain is always to the protective side, it's where you get to, that's where your brain starts to make you live. Can you get access to the other side again? Sure you can, but you got to know that there's a problem there first. Most people don't realize that that's a problem, they just think that's the way they are. Or, I tell you, when you start doing more brain research, you get to have a little bit more empathy for people in the world, because the crabby old cusses and all the people that don't get along with it, you start realizing, you know what, they might actually have brain lesions. Their brains must just be messed up enough that they don't know how to interact with anybody other than that way, because that's the only way that they have available to them. And then it's the old, the sound of music, right? The admiral, right? He was the old crabby until who came along and helped him to start to gain access to the, yes, right? And then he started gaining access to the happy side of his brain. And all of a sudden now he's out there playing guitar and singing with his kids, where before he was just being the admiral. Okay? Everybody has the ability to get their admiral out of the way and go sing in the hills if you want to. But you have to know that there's a challenge or something that's going on there. And sometimes it's better that you do know if you have a head injury, because at least you can say, right, part of my problem is because I have a head injury. My brain just doesn't work the same as anybody else because of the injury. But now I can't use that as an excuse anymore. I have to start doing the things I know that will fix it, or make it better, or make it help you get better. Otherwise, you're always stuck in the rut. And guess what? When your brain's stuck in the rut, it keeps digging the rut. My analogy is if you're driving a tank, and one side goes forward, one side goes back. You spin in a circle, right? Well, one time isn't a big deal. If you keep doing this, what happens? You start digging a hole. Well, next thing you know, all you're doing is spinning yourself around in a hole, and you can't see out anything else. You're always just seeing the same thing. So this is we're showing your brain there's a different way to do things. Let's train it on how to do it. Everybody had to learn how to tie your shoes, but now you can do it without thinking about it because of practice and repetition. That's what neurofeedback's all about. Practice and repetition, showing your brain how to do something different, and then getting it to keep doing it so it changes what it's been doing. Realize it's all about figuring out, okay, is there something there? Is there an issue there that we need to work on? And if there is, how do we get about working on it? And then try and be as specific as we can. Right? If we just fix that front tire, the rest of the car is going to stop shaking. If we try to fix everything else and never fix the tire, everything just keeps shaking on itself. Any other questions?
Dr. Rudolph?
This is what the real life looks like.
Nope, Norman's got a question.
It's just a touchscreen computer. Camera sits right down the bottom. All you do is sit at a table, look at the screen, follow the dots. It's as easy as that. It's all connected to the internet. So all the information that you have is stored. And then, like I said, once again, when you get done with your evaluation, there's an email that's sent to you. It's got a link to your exercises. Do the exercise for 7-10 days, come back and get checked. If things are going great, great. If they're not, then for sure, if we weren't going to do a neurofeedback or an EEG before, we are now, because something's not letting it get better. Because it should get better fast. And if we have other things to speed it up, I won't turn it on, so I'm not supposed to. This is my laser. Right? Lasers, cold lasers, are used to speed up the healing process. Essentially what we know now is that on the outside of our cells are little receptors that respond to light. When you hit that receptor with the right frequency of light, little signal gets sent into the energy producing parts of your cells that start to make more energy. So whatever the cell's job is, it starts to do it better and faster. So if the job is trying to heal itself,